Hello there. I'm hoping I can see you've joined in there. Jim, I just want to check. Oh, hi, Emma. If you guys can see down the bottom, there should be the option to chat. If one of you just wants to give me a wee wave or a hello or something, just to let me know that you can hear me. Cool, that sounds good. We'll just wait a couple minutes, see there's a few more due to join. So we'll just give it a couple of minutes and hopefully we'll get a few more. Cool, well, I reckon we should just crack on, and if anyone else joins, that's cool. I'm just going to share my screen with you, so just bear with me a second. Cool, so hopefully you can all see that. It's just a bit of an agenda of what we're going to go through today. My name's Annie, I work here at CRS Software. Most of you have already switched from Rural to Focus, so we can skip over that. We'll have a quick look through the settings and how to get everything set up properly, and then have a real focus actually on the transactions or the needs action area. That's kind of big difference from Rural to Focus and how we work. We'll have a look through the plan and budgeting side, jump into the reports, and we'll have some time at the end for a bit of a Q&A session. The purpose of this webinar is to get you feeling a bit more comfortable and a bit more confident with the Focus software. It is all quite new and can be a bit overwhelming, so just take in what you can. Ask questions as we go, use that chat. I'll try and multitask and pay attention to that as we go and answer any questions as they come up. If not, we'll go through them at the end. And also it's really good to remember that at CRS Software here, you've got the live chat, the help centre, and us in the office here. So there's lots of places to get help and support. So we'll just jump in to our Focus software. When you first log in, you come to the dashboard, quite similar to what we had in Rural, just a real quick overview of your business, see how your bank balance is tracking, where your money has come from and where it's gone to. The pie charts fill up with your different reporting groups. Quite handy, you can hover over and see a quick percentage of overall spend. We'll have a look into the settings now. I think most people here today have migrated, so your settings should have come across, but I think it's definitely worth taking the time to jump in, just make sure everything's set up. If you haven't, say, got your effective hectares in there, really worthwhile putting in as we get a per hectare figure in our performance reports. Users, as with Rural, we can add people to have access to our database. We just need them to first be registered. Pop in their email address. We've got the option to give them organisation admin, which is full access. That's what you'll want to give to your accountant. And restricted means people can't get into your settings and billings. The great thing with Focus being totally web-based is you can have multiple people in there working and looking at the same time, as long as you refresh in between each change. So that's really handy. Financial things, they should have come across, but just worth taking the time to check. We can now pop in livestock values and weights. This is new, we didn't have this in Rural. So the livestock values, we can pop in an opening and closing figure. These figures feed through and give us an adjustment in our report. So if you've dropped in stock numbers through the year, your bank balance might look really good, but once we put in an adjustment for the stock missing off farm, those dollars in the paddock, it gives us a really true performance in our report. So this is optional, but definitely recommended to pop in your livestock values and also those livestock weights. They will feed through to live weight gain and kilo production. Bank accounts, we can get them set up with the bank feeds, which is awesome. Your bank transactions will come straight in from the bank. We don't have BNZ on board, but that is a work in progress. If anyone is BNZ, I can show you at the end. We can easily grab a file from the bank and bring the whole file in your Focus database, so you don't need to manually enter everything. It's just a little extra step if you're BNZ. Other banks, though, add them in, make sure your bank feed is up and running. The tags, so the management tags replace enterprising. These are fantastic if you've got quite separate areas of your business. So if you've got one GST number, but you might have, say, 2 farms that run quite independently, or in this case, we've got a dairy farm with an earthworks contracting business as well. We could create a management tag to easily tag all the transactions relating to that other enterprise and easily report on it as well. You get one management tag included in your subscription, and you can buy any additional that you need. Cost tags are new. These are really awesome. I like to think of them as a project tracker. As you'll be familiar in rural and with Focus, it's really easy to report on a code. But say you've got, say you're upgrading the wool shed, you might have some casual labour, a bit of fencing, some water bits and pieces, some farm working costs, but it's all relating to that project. So if you've created a tag for that project, tag all those expenses and we can report on it. In this case, in this dairy demo, we've got a few other projects that we can use those cost tags for. We've got the connectors, again, just jump in, make sure they're all running. Invoice scanner is new. We really recommend that you get this set up. So to connect it, we just hit to connect. You'll see that it gives your, it'll give your, oh, I can't connect it in this demo, sorry, but in your databases, you'll see it gives your Focus database its own email address. When you get emailed invoices, you can simply forward them on to your Focus database and they'll appear within the software. You'll have that PDF sits in behind it, and we've got the invoice sitting there, and we can easily get it all coded and match it to the bank transaction. So it's a really awesome feature. Contacts, handy place to store information, and also if you're going to be sending invoices out, we can get the person you're going to bill all set up in here. We can also set it up within the invoice. I'll just jump back to the codes. So the farm codes are kind of the backbone behind everything that happens. Pretty much the same as what we had in rural. You've got your sections. Underneath there, set your categories. And underneath there, your extended codes. Generally, when we're budgeting and when we're coding our transaction, we want to do it down to extended code level. In rural, the right click of the mouse gave us a lot of our options. In Focus, if you look off to the right, you see these 3 dots, which are where we find our menus for things to do. And as with rural, we can easily jump in and use our dots to add in new extended codes. So if there's something that you would like in there that's not, we can add it in. We can also edit what's there, delete things we're never going to use, or you've got the option to deactivate. If you deactivate, it hides it from view unless you choose to show your inactive codes, and then you can reactivate it. So if there's something there you think you don't use just now, maybe say irrigation, but in the future you might be putting some in, you could just choose to deactivate that. It's definitely worth taking the time, I think, to jump through, go through each category one at a time and just get it all tidied up, add in things that would be useful and get rid of things that you don't need in there. It just keeps it really nice and tidy, and it's great to have it personalised to you as well. So yeah, go through one at a time using your 3 dots to edit, delete, deactivate. And if you want to add in something new, we come to category level, the bold line, and you'll see you've got the option to add in a new extended code. We'll just jump up and have a quick look at the stock codes. It's maybe repeating myself because it is the same as we had in rural, but just worth having a wee look. If we jump in, let's say, to 2-year-old heifers, you'll see as soon as we give the code the type stock, we get some additional information. We can pop in a settlement delay. Each stock class has got stock units attached to it. Each stock class is set to age at the end of the financial year. The breeding status is important. If an animal is set as breeding or secondary breeding, it allows it to be a mother. Progeny allows it to be born, and none we use for our non-breeding animals. The KPI reporting group is in the other codes too. It's where it sits in terms of your report. And this is really an awesome benefit with Focus. We can put in our default unit of measure, either carcass or live weight, and the average yield. And so this means In rural, of course, we would put our weight in, but if you're sometimes putting carcass, sometimes putting live, your data was never going to be consistent. Whereas here, we can select whether it's the live weight or carcass weight, and based on the yield, the software will tidy it all up, and our reports will be consistent and give us really valuable information. So that's the farm codes. We'll look at the code split rules. These are easy to set up rules for splits for GST. The ones we've got here are quite standard IRD splits, but if the accountant lets you know that you can claim a percentage of GST on something, we can get that set up. And the coding rules are like our new auto coding. So we'll jump in, you'll see we've got some set up here. And this is where we tell the software every time it sees a specific search criteria, it'll code it for us. We can add rules in here, or we can do it within the transaction itself. It's great, you'll see we now have multiple search criteria. So we could say, for example, other party contains Genesis, add a criteria for, let's say, the reference is something specific. We could code that to say woolshed power. We could set up another coding rule also for Genesis, but with a different reference. And we could code that to say the house power. So you can get quite specific with your coding rules. The more of these you get set up, the more kind of time you'll save in the office, the quicker and more efficient your coding becomes. We'll jump now and have a look at the actuals. So the actuals is, I suppose, like our new transaction screen. You'll see along the top it's split into these tabs. Needs action, everything sitting here is waiting for you to do something. When things are coded and dealt with, they move to completed. Completed is a big long list of all your coded transactions. We can flick back to previous financial years here. We can search for anything. We can even pop dates in there. So it's a really quick, easy way to find specific something. It's inland revenue. You'll see you can just pop in the search bar and easily narrow it down. The headers also act to reorder. Again, another just quick and easy way to find something specific. Stock activity, any transaction that you give a stock code to duplicates and also sits under stock activity. It's a big long list of all your stock movements. Sales and purchases, of course, we've got a bank transaction to code. We just have to be mindful to manually pop in our non-financial events. So your non-financial events, we just click that button there, select the event we want to pop in, births, deaths and missings. Bound is handy if you've written some stock off the year before and you want to add them back in. And we can also transfer between stock codes. So you can select your event, select the code and the parent, pop in your quantity, add in any descriptions, additional notes, save there, and that information is going to feed through to our livestock rec. Stock activity, sales and purchases take care of themselves, but do remember, add in your non-financial events. Balancing is our new way to reconcile. So rather than having a reconciliation page that we have to match our transactions to, our balancing is just a constantly revising look at our bank. You'll see the bank balance there. This has come through from your internet banking, so that's your true bank balance. Your focus balance is everything that you've got coded up to date. So once you're all fully coded, your bank balance and your focus balance all match, and you get a nice green line telling you that you're balanced up to here. So you'll see once these things stay coded, we've got that nice balanced line. One of the great benefits of this is that if you are unbalanced, you can pinpoint the exact day that you've gone from being balanced to unbalanced. So it's really easy to think, you know, look, have you deleted something by accident? Have you got a wee duplicate in there? Whatever it may be. Once we've got some uncoded transactions, of course you sit unbalanced, which is fine. You just want to make sure that you're balanced up to, say, your GST period end date. Lastly, there we've got tax invoices. So any invoices you've created to send out to folk, sit down here. We'll come back to needs action. And as I say, this is a bit different, but once we go through it, hopefully it'll all make a bit more sense. It's split into two sides. On the left-hand side, we've got the invoices. This is where your feeds sit, so say your farmlands or your farm source. Your invoices that you've created to send to people will sit. And also any invoices you've sent in through that invoice scanner. So the invoice scanner forwards, you can see are there with that little icon, the wee blue one, that shows that they've been sent from your email and forwarded into here. When you've got invoices sitting here, the first thing we want to do is jump in and make sure they're coded. So this country vets forward here, you'll see the software picks up the different lines, which is awesome. It picks it up and splits it into the lines for you. You can manually code these, or we've got this clever software called Extractor. So if we hit down the bottom to fill in the gaps, we can actually teach the software to read these invoices. So you'll see it's picked up all the relevant information. We can, if it's got it wrong, tell the software where we want it to look by dragging a box around it. This one's all pretty tidy, and you'll see it's nicely picked up all the different things. So we're happy with that. Within the invoice, you can code each line one at a time. But in this case, these are all actually related to the vet. So I can just go tick, 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 multi-select all of these. You do have the option to merge. So if you didn't want the detail, you could merge this all into one line if you wanted. And you'll see I'll just code the first line. If this bill wasn't paid, I can hit save and it'll just sit there until next time. However, I believe this bill has been paid, so I hit match. And you'll see down the bottom, it's brought up all our bank transactions. And I can tick and save. That invoice is now joined with the bank transaction and it's gone off to completed. We'll just have a wee look at another one. Here's this one here. You'll see the information's been picked up from the invoice scanner. If this wasn't looking right, we can choose to fill in the gaps and show the software where we want it to look on the invoice. But in this case, this is both fuel. So again, I can use that handy multi-select. I'll just start typing fuel. A big difference with Rural to Focus is the fact that rather than having to learn our code list off by heart and remember the codes, we can just start typing a keyword and it'll find it for us. And so this is both just farm fuel. If the bill hadn't been paid, I'd hit save and it'll just sit and wait. However, I think this bill's also been paid. So we scroll down. There it is there. And that's them off gone to completed, nicely dealt with. If you wanted to create a tax invoice to send out to someone, you've got the button up the top here. Pop in the invoice date, due date, people that are set up already as contacts. So you can add new within here. And you go through and pop in the different lines. And then you can generate that invoice. You'll see in the top right, we've got the paper clip, so you can easily save attachments in behind the scenes, which is really handy if it's receipts, whatever it may be. I think that's really probably the main bit of the invoice side. So the key to the invoice side is when your invoice scanner forwards or your feeds arrive, get your lines coded. If the bill's been already paid and it's sitting on the right, hit match. If it's not yet been paid, we hit save and we can leave it nicely coded waiting. Bank transaction side. So this is everything that's happened at the bank. We can click into the first transaction here. You'll see in the area at the top, the green area, this is the information that's come through from the bank. Again, if there was an invoice sitting, we can choose to match it. If there's not an invoice there, if it's just a bank transaction, we can hit code and manually pop in the coded lines. Let's just say that was some tracks and races R&M. We can pop in additional descriptions. This is where we could add in our tag. If there was a relevant one, you can pop in quantities. You can also add in additional notes. And we can also create those coding rules. So if I click it here, you'll see the benefit of creating it within the transaction is that the information's already been picked up for us. So every time the software sees Angus Black and the reference contains Earthworks contract, let's code the full amount to R&M for tax. The choice we've got at the bottom is whether we want to review it each time. So if on occasion it might be something different, we would elect to just double check it before it goes to completed. However, if it's surely going to be the same every time, we can just choose to run from needs action, which means with the click of a button, it'll go straight through to completed. I'll not save this just now. So that was creating a coding rule, either using the 3 dots, or this icon up in the top right-hand corner also takes us to create that coding rule. While we're up in the top right corner, again, you'll see that paper clip to easily save any additional attachments. There's no limit to how many attachments you can save in a transaction. And you can either, if you've got, say, PDF sitting attached to emails, you can drag and drop anywhere in the screen, or if they're downloaded, you can browse and find it. I mentioned that with the coding rules, we can choose to run from needs action. So if there's coding rules set up that way, noted here with this little icon, we can just hit to run coding rules. It asks us just to double check that we don't want to match anything to an invoice first. And we can hit run, and all those 8 ones that happen to have coding rules attached, off they've gone to completed. On this side also, you'll see we can easily multi-select. Again, makes it really quick for our coding. So all these ones at the shop, these are all personal drawings. So I can go through and select them all, hit code. I'll pop in here, again, just typing the word drawings and hit code. And that's them all gone off to completed. When we are, I'll just find a good example. Just stay with this Earthworks contracting one. Let's just say he's done a little bit of work on the tracks and dams. His bill for that maybe might have been, say, $700. I can change this line amount, and you can see that I can add in a new line. He might have also billed us, he's popped into the store on the way through and bought some fencing supplies for us. So you can see there, by changing the line amount, and I can easily add new line to split one transaction into multiple areas. So as long as all the different line amounts add up to that total amount, then we can easily either save or save and net. We'll just have a wee look. We'll have another one here. Let's say Bob the Builder contract wages. This is a great example. We can choose to create that coding rule. Every time Bob the Builder contract wages, we want to code the full amount to contract wages. I'm going to choose to run that from needs action, because every time we pay him and it says contract wages on the bank, it's always going to be that. So we'll hit save, coding rules applied, and we can carry on. And now next time that comes through, it'll be nicely already coded for us. I think we've run through most of that. One of the things that came through in our latest release, generally most people pay all their bills on their online banking and wait for their bank transactions to come in. If, however, you use that direct credit function where you enter your invoices and then take the file from your database to the bank, we now have the ability to do that. So if you want to record your bill payments, you can record them in here. Using this upload download icon, we can grab that bill payment file and take it to the bank to upload to pay your accounts. You'll see with that upload download, we can also bring in supplier invoices. So say the likes of maybe PGG Wrightson's, if you've got a CSV file, you can bring that in. And with the BNZ folk that we don't have the bank feeds for, you can go into your internet banking, save that file and pull it in using the upload download icon. Hopefully that's all made sense. Just to recap, the 2 sides here, invoices, all your invoice scanner forwards, invoices you've created in your feeds, jump in, pop in your coding on each line, match off to the bank transaction if it's been paid, save it if it's not, and it'll happily sit. And then on the bank transaction side, go through, pop in your coding, match them if there's an invoice there, split them up into the different lines as you need, use the multi-select to easily bulk code. And that hopefully should all be a bit clearer. We'll move on now and have a bit of a look at the plan area. You'll see here we've got the working plan along the top. So this is a constantly revising main budget. So in the working plan, you have your main budget that you'd maybe show the bank manager, and the red line there is our actuals up to date. The baselines underneath here are read-only copies that you've saved. So say once you've got your original budget in place, we recommend that you set it as a read-only baseline. It just saves as a copy, so we've always got it to refer back to. And while we recommend you have that just one main budget, that's not to say you can have as many different draft options going down at the bottom here. If a draft option becomes your new best plan, you'll have 3 dots here and you can choose to set that as a working plan and swap them out. I'll jump into the working plan here. So you'll see along the top, we've got cash flow, all about our dollars, livestock, all about our quantities, our numbers of animals. If you're a dairy farming database, you've also got the dairy forecaster, which is all about our milk solid. Once you've got budgets in, you can also use this padlock to save that read-only copy. So say you've done a revision partway through the year, you want to save that so you've got it to compare your data. As I said, your actuals move along and sit on top of your budget to constantly revise it. However, if you want to throw your revision date back, you can easily do that. So in terms of the cash flow side, of course, we've got our code list down the side. We can use our chevrons to look at it at section, category or extended code level. I reckon it's normally pretty good to leave it at category level and just drop down one category at a time. If you drop down all your extended codes, it can be quite daunting to look at. There's quite a lot there. And creating your budget is a case of going through your categories one at a time. You can budget at category level, but to get that level of detail, it's good to drop down your categories and pop in your info at extended code level. You've got 2 options to pop information in. You can either click once and enter the dollar value, or if you'd like to put in a wee bit more detail, you can click add, and that opens us up a worksheet. That allows us to put in quantities and multipliers. You can put in your tags, descriptions, additional notes, but the amount will still feed through and sit on your cash flow. In terms of popping in info, we can also choose to copy. So if we select to copy a figure, we can choose to repeat it for a number of months, or maybe do it every 2nd month, or if it's quarterly, do it every 3rd month. The other option we've got is to spread. So let's just say over summer, we're going to have a bit more casual labour. We think we're probably spending about £9,000 for this summer, and we can choose to spread that over those summer months. And you'll see it will divide that amount out for you. So they're just wee quick tools to fill up your budget. Copy to repeat and spread to divide amount out. Once you've pop something in there, we can actually hit clear if you want to delete everything, and it will clear everything to the right hand side. So that's just clicking once to easily put the figure in, clicking add to pop in that extra detail. From the livestock side, it's really important to make sure you've got your opening numbers in there. You can either just click in the opening column, or from the settings, we can go into livestock and pop in our opening numbers this way. In a perfect world, when everything's tidy, our closing numbers from the year before will be there, and ideally we'll just copy them across and they've aged up and they become next year's opening, but you can overwrite them. Once you've got your opening numbers in there, these figures on the left hand side of the red line, of course, there are coded actuals, so that's really crucial that you've got that quantity in. And then on the budgeted side, as with the cash flow side, we can use add to open us up that worksheet. select the event, whether it's a sale, purchase, or you're maybe transferring between code, whatever it may be. Pop in our detail, hit add, and that's then going to sit on your budget. You'll see you've also got a list of all the other movements that are either actuals or budgeted for that line. And for the dairy farmers, we've got the dairy forecaster. There's fantastic tool. You can go through, pop in your kilos of milk solids that you've got budgeted, hit to update the prices, and it pulls through the most recent forecast, and those overall figures will sit in your milk production line on your cash flow. Really, really clever tool. We've got within the settings, of course, you can get it all set up to be relevant to your business, whichever dairy company you supply and what your farming type setup is. Within the working plan, we can use the print icon to give us a nice printable PDF from the cash flow or the livestock screen. This icon here allows us to compare whatever we're looking at with another draft or another scenario you might have going on. So it's whatever you're looking at with, say, might be last year's actuals or whatever you want to compare to. We can easily filter for those different tags, so drill down on the specific tag. You can change a few things in the view, like it's quite handy, I think, to have, say, your stock units turned on, but whatever you'd like to see, you can have a play around there. There's keyboard shortcuts, so some people like to click with the mouse, some people prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts. Those options are there for you. And there's a few bits and pieces you can change within the settings if you need to, say, pop in opening GST owing from the year before, you can get that all popped in. I think that's the main kind of run through of the plan area. I suppose with the livestock, the other thing to remember, other than your opening numbers, your events through the year, just remember that in focus, everything ages at the end of the financial year. So your lambs or calves are born, spend the rest of that year at that stock class, and then they wake up in the new financial year aged up. They'll then spend 12 months, say, as a 1-year-old heifer. Next financial year, they wake up as a 2-year-old heifer and spend that 12 months. So it's quite good, I suppose, maybe, let's say you're coding your lambs sold after balance date. Just be mindful that once the financial year's flipped over, you're actually technically selling a hogget. But you can go through and edit your stock classes on your extended codes if you've made a wee mistake. There's no change to GST, so it keeps it nice and simple. We'll have a wee look at the reports now. You'll be familiar with a lot of these reports from Rural. There's kind of wee improvements coming to them all the time, but the main ones are there, so we can jump in, look at your trends reports, we can run variance reports to compare how you've gone with what you budgeted to do. We can look at your cash flow detail. The report options, when you click into each report of what you might want to look at. There's different, again, you can filter, you can look at them in lots of different ways to filter maybe just for a specific code that you want to look maybe just at your stock purchases, say. And so you can really drill your reports down to get really valuable information out. The EFS report in particular is a real favourite. We can pop in the details here and you'll see it gives us all that really valuable information, very similar, well, pretty much the same as to what we had in Rural. This is where your adjustment figures come through. Remember, we popped in our stock values. You can jump in here and manipulate it if need be. You can also pop in other adjustments to standardise, say, your fair management R&M, if you're maybe part of discussion groups or do some analysis where you want to compare your businesses apples for apples, you can get that popped in. You can also put in like your peak milking and breeding animals, just to really get these reports really valuable and get all those kind of key figures that we want to look when we're looking at our business performance. GST returns, one we'll use often. You'll see they generate based on the frequency we've got set up in our settings. Once you're all coded and up to date at the end of that GST period, it's as simple as going through. We can run through our coded lines if we want to just double check everything, and then we can choose to actually save it and file it directly with IRD. So if I click that, it takes us through to a link to log into our MyIR, and it takes all the data in there for us. So it's a really great time saver, and I suppose takes out that risk of human error when you're entering it yourself. And so that's fantastic. The support, I suppose, is the other thing that we're really proud of here and that we want to always remember about. We've got a really, really good help centre. I'll just show you quickly. Sorry, that was with the little question mark and going to help. The search bar in the help centre works really, really well. So if you think, oh, what was she talking about with those coding rules, we can type rules into the search bar and you'll see it'll bring up how to run them, split rules, what they are. So it's really easy to find information because there's a lot in there. But use that search bar to find the info. Within Focus, you can also click this icon and it's live chat that comes through to us in the office here. We try and answer it as quick as we can, but if everyone's on the phone, there might be a wee delay. And you can also, of course, give us a ring on the 0800 number. There's one of us in the office generally till 6 o'clock. So you can give us a call with any of your questions and we're more than happy to help. So that is Focus in a nutshell. Hopefully it all is a bit clearer. And that all made sense. I'll just bring up the Q&A box. If anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them through. Or if you have any questions, say hopefully it's a bit clearer. It is a lot of information to take in. And I think it's good to remember that it is different from rural. It will take a wee minute to just get your head round, particularly in your actuals area, managing that, how to deal with coding our transactions and matching to our invoices. Okay, well, if there's no questions, I hope that's a good sign. Hopefully that means all your questions are being answered as we go through. After this session, though, if you do think of anything that you would like to ask, give us a call or come through on the live chat.
Annie, I had one question, if you can hear me.
Oh, yes, I can, Jim. Yep.
I've only just migrated to Focus, and I literally haven't posted a transaction yet. And I think that some of the bank downloads that I get for a week or so didn't come across. So
right.
I presume I have to enter the whole transaction on that transaction screen. Maybe you could show me how that would work.
Yep, so there's a couple of options there. If you are missing some bank feeds that haven't come across, if we jump into your actuals there, actually the simplest way, if you jump into your internet banking, depending what bank you're with, up the top, if you click on your farm account, there's normally an export button. And from there, you can put in a date range and you can export it as, say, a QIF works well. So internet banking, export your date range as a QIF, and that will download the file on your computer. You can then use this upload, download, choose the bank transaction file. Make sure you're bringing it into the correct account if you've got multiple bank accounts. When you browse, it will just be your most recent download, and then you can hit import, and it will bring that file into you. It'll be much quicker than manually entering everything.
Okay, there may not be very many transactions. If I did manually enter them, how would I do that?
Yep, nice and easy. You just hit this record button at the top of the bank transactions.
Yep, okay.
Say it's money out. Again, yep. As we mentioned, the green area we think of as what's happened at the bank.
Right.
But all we actually need is the amount. You can choose to put the other party and references in if you like. Right. Then we hit code.
Right.
Actually, a good thing to point out, I'm not sure about you guys, but in rural, I use the tab key all the time. I find it really quick and easy to tab through. And at first I found Focus, I was clicking with my mouse a lot. But it's really good to know that we can actually tab. So let's just say this bank transaction, I've bought some fencing bits and pieces.
Right.
I just my down arrow there to highlight fencing. I can tab through, pop in descriptions and tags. I can change that line amount. Tab, I've now highlighted add new line. I can hit enter. I might have got some bits and pieces of pipe, so I can select water supply R&M. Tab through, and once you have popped in all your bits and pieces, and once it's all fully coded, and you'll see now that that's nicely balanced, I can hit save, and that's that all coded and dealt with. That transaction would go straight through to completed.
Okay, fine. That's all I need to know, I think.
And you just hit record.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Thank you very much.
No worries. Did anybody else have any questions? Cool. Well, if we're all tidy, I'll leave you guys to it. I say come through to us if there is anything. Make the most of the help centre. The help centre does work really well. There's lots of good info in there. There's updates and little improvements still coming. If you keep an eye on our Facebook page and any newsletters that come out, you get a few wee updates there. And I say if you need us, do keep in touch.
Thank you very much.
No worries at all. Cool. Oh, well, I shall close out. Thanks very much, everybody.